we have this. Perfect. So welcome to the Scale with Webinars training. And I'm really excited to have you all here because this is where your business is going to transform. Whether you are kind of new to webinars or you have done them before, but you might not have seen the kind of result that you wanted from them, I want to assure you, you are in the right place. I have done over 390 live conversion events, and I'm going to share my story a little bit later. And for the next 1.5 hour-ish, I'm going to say, because I love to talk, I love to share value. So I'm going to say 1.5 hour-ish. I will show you how to scale your business sustainably and effectively using webinars, which is a repeatable, scalable system that works in today's market without having the need of a huge audience, without having the need of any type of complicated tech, large team, running ads, or hours on social media. I would love for you to share in the comments where you are tuning in from. So I am based right now down in Sicily. So I'm really excited to have you all here. So where are you tuning in from? As we have Switzerland. I hope I have the chat open. Can we just maybe check that? So I haven't closed down the chat. So I'm just going to check. No, everyone can use. So we have Sweden. I am also from Sweden. As you hear, my first language isn't English. I'm actually from Sweden, but I do live in Sicily. And we have 2 people from Sweden. We have more Switzerland. We have Bradford, Ben. So welcome, everyone. Oh, welcome, Elisa. So nice to have you here. We have UK. So to scale a business, you need one strategy to sell your offers in the capacity 1 to many. And we can see, we're going to talk a lot about it today throughout this session. We can see that sales has kind of slowed down for many businesses because the buying cycle is longer. And most businesses don't have a plan to kind of guide people kind of effectively through that. And this shorter buying cycle, or I would say slower buying cycle, is compounded by the skepticism that is in the market. And buyers are more educated. They have experienced the online space multiple times, and they kind of know what they want, right? And it also requires to reach way more people than before and build way more relationships. But to navigate through this, you don't need thousands or hundreds of different kind of strategies. What you need is one simple rinse and repeat system to attract the right kind of people, build trust with those people, and convert those people to paying clients without consistently reinventing the wheel, okay? And webinars and masterclasses are the most powerful and simple way of doing that. And for you who don't know me, so my name is Angela. I'm a virtual event sales expert. So what I do is that I help our clients build a category of one brand and turn leads from cold to sold using conversion events and mainly webinars and mainly challenges and workshops. And first, I wanted to share a little bit about where we are today. And I'm going to share a little bit about the do's and the don'ts when it comes to webinars in 2025. And in order to do that, we need to look into the challenges that we are facing, but also the challenges that your audience are facing and my audience are facing. So you have probably noticed how much the market kind of have shifted. There is no entry level, and anyone can go online, put up a bio, claim to be an expert, and do and sell exactly what you do. Absolutely zero entry level. And with this comes a lot of noise online, right? A lot of saturation. And with the help of AI, these people can now also sound like experts. And even if AI is an amazing tool, we use AI a lot, it's very important to understand what this kind of have pushed the entire market that we are operating in. Because it's way harder now than it was before to build trust. And studies show that 46% of consumers distrust AI-driven marketing. And almost 71% of people don't know if they can trust what they actually see online. And so much as 83% thinks that AI-generated content should be labeled as AI-generated content. So what has happened is that this is kind of created together with the saturation and together with the noise and together with the no entry level and together with AI, this has created what we called a trust recession. And that is what makes the buying cycle way longer than it was before. And that is kind of increased the skepticism, and people think twice and they are way more educated. And we have this kind of longer cycle for people to go from cold to sold. And in this, I don't know what we're going to call it, new reality, something like that. You need more than great services. You need a way to establish trust quickly and effective. And I know that everyone that are here with us today, because that is what why you are here, are amazing service providers. You have amazing results for your clients. You provide outstanding results. But I'm here to tell you that it requires way more today to be a great service provider, than to be a great service provider, because you also need to be a great business person. Because if you are not consistently bringing new clients in, there is no one to get those outstanding results for, right? So sales is more than just making an offer. You first need people to sell to, and then you need enough trust from those people to ask for the sale. And trust is the absolute foundation of sales today. It's the absolute foundation to be able to scale. And to be able to scale, you need a system that works for you consistently without reinventing the wheels. So to take someone from cold to sold, we need three fundamental things. We need lead generation. We need new people coming in. If we don't have new people, we are going to end up with no one to sell to, because we're going to run out of people to sell to. The second thing that we need is lead nurturing. This is where we build the like, know, and trust factor, right? And the last thing we need is lead conversion. This is where you invite people to invest in themselves and let you guide them towards success. And webinars excel this process because they accomplish all these three things at once, right? So instead of juggling multiple systems, imagine having one rinse and repeat system that continuously bring in new leads, build trust with those leads, and convert those leads into paying clients. At the same time, it also positions you as the go-to expert in your field, the kind of category of one. That is what I call it. You claim your space on the market, you become the category of one. And webinars is an amazing tool because it integrates those three things: lead generation, lead nurturing, and lead conversion. But at the same time, it's also tapping into the triggers that actually drive sales. And those are social proof, those are reciprocity, scarcity, authority, and emotional. And we're going to come back to those 5 things when we talk about how you are going to create the content inside of your webinar. So webinar is a perfect way to leverage these triggers, helping you establish trust very quickly, build connections, and actually motivate people to take actions. But webinars is more than just sharing information. They bridge the trust gap that we have in the market, addressing this kind of skepticism that is in the market, and leveraging these buying triggers that are going to take people from cold to sold. And if we then look at webinars from other perspectives, it's kind of going to replace 80% of what you're doing in your business today. And time is our biggest return on investment. So instead of spending hours in one-to-one DMing, one-to-one calls, spending hours on social media, a signature webinar is going to allow you to reach and engage with a wide audience at once, okay? And this is not about, and this is something I really want to talk about, this is not about creating multiple presentations or reinventing the wheel every time we run a webinar. This is about building one signature webinar, one presentation that you can perfect and repeat. Okay? This isn't just a one-time event, because a signature webinar becomes a repeatable, refined system that closes clients in bulk. And at the same time, it's going to build your personal brand, right? The category of one online. And you can just think about it. So we need to use simple numbers here, but let's say we want to close 10 clients, okay? And we're going to close them 1-to-1. How much time would that take you to do outreach, to start connecting with a lot of people, get those people into the direct message, make sure that those people book a call, and then you might need to have a follow-up call. So how much time would that take you to close one client? And we need to do this simple. So let's say we spend 1 hour to close one client. If you then have a conversion rate of 20% of your outreach, that means you need to spend 50 hours to close 10 clients. So instead, with a signature web webinar, you can spend 45 minutes to 1.5 hour-ish, something around that, usually is the time frame of webinar, engaging with all these people at once. And the beauty thing is that there is no limit of how many people you can have in front of you, because when you get this to work, you only turn up the volume. That is all that you do, okay? And this is usually when I hear, well, because there's a lot of people here that have following me for a long time, I can see you do 3-day workshop, 5-day workshop, 9-day live launches. Don't they work anymore? The answer is yes, they absolutely work, but only if you have the skill set to sustain energy and engagement over multiple days in a row. And most people, most entrepreneurs struggle here. So what happens is that we join day one, we are all fired up, we are so excited, and people are joining, and everything feels good. Then the natural course in a multiple day event is that fewer people are going to show up for each day. So what happens is day two, less people show up. And we see that less people show up, so our energy drops. And then it continues to the next day, and the energy just go down and down and down, right? And when your energy goes down, the audience energy goes down, and more people are leaving. So by the time you open cart, well, all the momentum, all the energy, all the magic, all gone, right? So that is usually a skill set to run multiple day event. And the second thing when it comes to multiple day events is that the time consciousness people have today, both you and your audience, it's easier for the audience to commit to a 1 hour webinar than it is to commit to 3 or 5 or even 9 days in a row. And if you look from your own perspective, a multiple day event requires way more time, right? Not only the time you spend in the event, like the 3, 5 or 9 days, because when you run multiple day events, you need a way bigger audience, because you need to have enough people so it actually is worth you being live so many times or so many days in a row. And to get all those people, you need to spend way more time generating leads, way more time getting people to actually sign up. And that whole process is a totally different skill set. So by running a shorter event, a webinar or a masterclass, I can promise you, you will have no problem, no struggle to keep the energy high and create a real-time human connection. And when people see you live, sharing your story, sharing your expertise, trust is built way faster. And we said before when we started this, that you need to have things in place to make sure that you establish trust quickly in the market that we're actually operating in, okay? And live webinars create energy, it creates momentum, and it's kind of delivering a transformational experience in that moment, right? And a couple of other reasons that I want to share about webinars that makes them stand out on the market is the flexibility. Because it doesn't matter if you sell low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket, You can use webinars to just generating leads. Webinars and masterclasses adapt to that strategy, right? They also have a very good evergreen potential. And evergreen is something that runs without you being there. So it's a recorded webinar. That is what we call evergreen webinars. Because a high converting webinars can be put up on an evergreen system. So you can actually scale and free up even more of your time. And the best thing with webinars is that you can take the same presentation to a live stage, right? Exactly the same presentation. We have Christine, that is a client inside of one of our programs. She took her webinar presentation to a live stage where she could stand in front of an audience, sharing her expertise and building her personal brand. You have Josephine Banner here with me today, my business partner. She have taken her presentation to live stages, but she has also been invited to run the same presentation in other coaches' masterminds. Just think what that actually could do for your business if you were able to do that, okay? And the last thing when it comes to webinar is there is no roof of what is possible when it comes to selling one-to-many, right? Let's say you have 50 people in your first webinar and your offer is, we need to make this simple. Your offer is $2,000, okay? And you have 50 people. If you convert at 5%, that is $5,000, right? If you convert at 10%, 10,000. And then if you double the audience and you go from 50 people to 100 people, you double the revenue as well, right? There is no roof because you can have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people in front of you. That doesn't matter, right? Because it's so scalable. So the combination of value-driven teaching, human connection, and a structured sales process, unbeatable in the market today. And then you must ask, okay, how do you know all this? So I'm going to share my story because I didn't start out teaching what I teach you here today, because I launched a fitness business online. And this was 2017. I was working as a truck driver. I was living in the truck from Sunday to Friday, but I was dreaming about another lifestyle because I wanted to lay on the beach. I wanted to travel the world and I wanted to have money in the bank account. That is what I wanted, right? But in the weekends, I was working in a local gym as a personal trainer. So when I started to look into the online space, it was kind of natural for me to launch a fitness business online. But the problem was I didn't know anything about the online space, absolutely nothing. I didn't know what a dream client was. I didn't know what niching down was. I didn't know anything about organic or paid marketing. I knew absolutely nothing. So I was sold a dream and a wish, an idea of massive evergreen sales by people that didn't do evergreen sales to close those sales. Because I bought whatever I bought, I'm going to share it with you in a 5-day challenge. Right? So what I bought was an app system. So I built myself a personal app, and then I drew traffic with ads. So people came in through ads into different kind of quizzes, and depending on the answers, they ended up in different kind of sales funnels. Complexity, right? And I did all this without knowing anything about my dream client. And that business costed me almost more money than I was making. And it was exhausting. And the dream of this other lifestyle, well, I couldn't even see it. And then I came across a 5-day challenge. And I thought, wow, this is what I need to do. And it looks simple. So I launched a 5-day challenge. What I didn't know was, yeah, it's an entire system to run them. So I failed. And that is when I decided to hire a coach. And it was a coach that was an expert in building webinars and challenges. So I rebuilt, I would say, my 5-day challenge. And I also built a webinar. And those two things took my fitness business to $100,000 in sales in 4 months, while I was still working as a truck driver. So I actually did all the events from the truck cabin. And then in 2019, that is when I started to help others and do webinars. And in 2020, I closed my fitness business and I went all in with what I still do. So what I teach my clients how to run their events and how to run their webinars and those things is exactly how we do it. I don't teach my clients something that I don't use myself. Okay. So what I'm going to share with you today is years of expertise, years of trial and error, and also my predictions about virtual events moving forward, because the things is changing very, very quickly, right? So what we are going to cover today are 4 things, okay? The first thing is a little bit about the do's and the don'ts when it comes to webinars now 2025. We can see a lot of changes. Then we are going to go into the webinar in itself, how to fill it with the right people, how to create sales-driven content. So the webinar in itself don't become what I call them information dump. They actually drive sales. And then we're going to talk about the sales in itself, the sales process that is in a webinar. And I know that is a lot to cover, but I am not here to talk about fluff. We don't get clients with fluff. So the things that I'm going to talk about today is actually what's going to give you the real result. And this training is for service-based entrepreneurs, but it doesn't matter what you sell. As I said to you, webinars have the power to pivot into depending on what you actually are selling. It can be low ticket, high ticket, one-to-one coaching, or even courses or affiliate marketing or something like that. But it's aiming for service-based entrepreneurs, okay? But I need some things from you to be able to make this happen. So I want you to close all the other tabs and I want you to have pen and paper ready. We have a lot to cover. That is why I will not go into any type of Q&A along the way here because I have a lot to cover, but make sure that you add the questions in the chat because Josephine is going to collect them. And at the end of this session, I'm going to make sure you get all your questions answered. So you don't leave this training with something that you are not clear about, right? But I value your time. So I'm going to go on in the content because I know that most of your questions will be answered throughout the content. But make sure that you add all the questions in the comments so Josephine can collect them throughout the way. Have pen and paper. And give yourself the gift to focus for the next 1.5, not really 1.5 hour, 1 hour and 15 minutes, okay? Because this training has the potential to actually be the turning point for your business and your life in 2025. And I don't want you to go back on Monday and do the same things that didn't work before, right? So we're going to start with looking into and put up a short-term goal together. If you look at the next webinar that you are going to run, so let's say we run, what is now, April? We run a webinar at the end of May or something, a month, something like that, May, June. What is your goal for that webinar? What is the sales goals? And this can either be money that you want to sell for a specific amount, have a specific amount of revenue, or it can be a number of clients. And share that in the comment section, okay? And it doesn't matter if it's money or clients, because the more clients' life you change, the more money you make. The more money you make, the more lives you change. And that turns the world into a better place. But we need to have a goal because we can't just run them randomly and hope for the best. We need to have a goal. So make sure that you write down your goal. And if you want to share it in the comment section. But make sure now you write down your goal for your next webinar. 5 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients, 2 clients, 10,000, 2,000, 5,000. It doesn't matter. It's your goal. It's your personal goal. Okay, so write that down. And if you want to share, you share. So we have Sarah, 5 people to certified NLP practice. That is an amazing course. So we have 5 people for Sarah. That is her goal. And then I want you to look at that number. And I want you to be willing to commit to that number. Okay. And when I say being willing to commit, that means that you are going to do the things that you said that you were going to do, long after the excitement and the energy you felt when you said it is all gone. And I'm going to repeat that because this is important, guys. To be able to commit, to be willing to commit, means doing the things you said that you were going to do long after the energy and excitement you felt when you said it is all gone. Okay? And then I'm going to ask you some tough questions that you are going to write down the answer to for yourself. You don't need to share. And I'm going to say that this is yes or no question. So you need to look at that goal and you need to ask yourself, am I willing to commit to learning a skill and build mastery to reach that goal? Or am I willing to commit to be consistent and show up to reach that goal? And am I willing to invest time and finances to hit that goal? Am I willing to trust the process and running the reps to hit that goal? And the last question I want you to ask yourself is, am I willing to change to hit that goal? And why I'm asking you these questions, and I really want you to reflect on them, is because this is what makes us great business people. I said before that being a great service provider today requires way more than being a great service provider. You also need to be a great business person. And this is what makes us great business people, right? That is when we know that nothing changes if nothing changes. And if you commit to this and answer yes, I'm totally committed to this. I am willing to commit to actually do what I said that I'm going to do long after this excitement is all gone. Then I know for a fact that you will not go out on Monday and do the same things you did before that didn't work. You are going to take what you learned today and bring it into action. So I want us to, before we continue, to actually agree on that everything that we learn, we are going to implement. We are going to be willing to change. We have Sarah, yes. So I want to hear a yes from everyone. We have, I can't even see how many people. It's so small, 30 people or something like that. I want to hear a lot of yeses, okay? Because I don't want you to go out on Monday and do the same shit that didn't work, okay? Enough is enough. We need to change. Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Great. So excited to have so many yeses. So pen and paper out. Now we are going to go into and make sure add any type of questions in the comment section, okay? So we don't have anything, you leave anything here, it's not clear for you, okay? So a little bit about the do's and the don'ts. So this is the first thing that I want to kind of cover. We talked about how the market and how the entire world, I would say, but the market that we are operating in have shifted. And it's very important to understand those changes and how they actually affect your people, okay? And how it affects their buying behavior. And the businesses that will thrive in the coming years, I would say, are the ones that adapt and master the art of operating in their dream client's reality. And if we look kind of when it comes to webinars, that the days of these overproduced webinars, these very techy heavy webinars and presentations are behind us, okay? And what makes webinars very successful today isn't the complexity, it's the simplicity. It's the authenticity. It's the human connection that is going to drive the most impact when it comes to webinars. And to truly stand out, we need to operate in a way that kind of resonates very deeply with our audience. And if we take that and look into how that look like when we do webinars, I have 3 do's that I'm going to cover and a couple of don'ts. So the first thing that is a do is authentic connection over perfection. Okay, Webinars are not about flashy slides, fancy slides, or these type of perfect scripts, okay? It's about being real. It's about creating a human experience that your audience can actually relate to. And the future belongs to the businesses that can embrace this raw authenticity and this real-time connection, because there is a huge gap on the market today for human connection, because we have entrepreneurs that spends 20, 30 hours every week on tactics that moves them away from speaking to people. And then at the same time, we have people over here that distrust things they see. They don't know if they can trust it or what. They're just sitting there waiting for someone to actually speak to them. This have created the trust gap, the gap of human connection. That is where you want to take your webinar and place it. Because every time we close a gap on the market, what happens? We make money. That is what happens as soon as we can close a gap. So your entire webinar is going to be positioned into that gap of human connection. So no more complicated whatever, and move into simplicity. Number one. Number two is what I call create a lasting kind of energy. I think we all have experienced these webinars where it felt like a pitch fest. You know, they really sell hard from the moment you join, and there is no real value. It's just a pitch. The entire webinar is a pitch. Or what I call brag fests. And brag fests are when the host just speak about themselves, nobody else, right? Those type of webinars, we have all participated. Do you recognize those webinars? I have been in a lot of them, okay? And the key here is that you want to create an energy, a lasting energy that makes your audience want to stay in that energy, okay? Your goal is to leave participant feeling like they never want this to end. And they want to just come back because they want to be in the room that you have created. Even when they have left the webinar, they're still going to think about your webinar, right? And I call that create a lasting energy. That is the second thing you want to think about. That is a do. The third thing is quick wins that builds trust. And people kind of don't want endless of information because information is very accessible today. They want a result. And the fastest way to build trust is offering quick wins. And your webinar should leave the audience with clarity and some kind of immediate takeaway. Okay? Help them feel empowered, help them feel confident and ready to take the next step. Okay? And the most important thing when it comes to quick wins builds trust is that the biggest return of investment for your audience today, time, right? So those are the three kind of do's when it comes to webinars. If we look at the other side, the don'ts is number one, and this is the biggest change when it comes to webinars, no more how-to information overloaded webinars. You can't sell a how-to course with how-to content. And the reason for that is that we kind of are operating where the accessibility of information is here, right? At our fingertips. People don't need more information. They need transformation. And your webinar shouldn't be an how-to information overload. Instead, it should focus on decision-making content. And we're going to come back to what decision-making content is, okay? So the absolute don't when it comes to webinar, information overload. People are already overwhelmed with everything that is going on, right? The second thing is don't overcomplicate. The simplicity of your presentation, it's what's going to make it very effective. Simplify your messaging. Focus on clarity. Focus on being relatable. And focus on actionable takeaways for your audience. The more complex your webinar is, the harder it's going to be to convert it. Okay? And successful webinars today are very, very straightforward, very easy to follow, and kind of provide a very clear path for your audience, a very, very easy step-by-step structure to follow. So I want to know if this makes sense. If we look at the market today, what have happened with the entire way that we are operating, all the noise, all the saturation, all the people, all the information, all the AI, all the skepticism, can you see yourself at that webinars could be a way to conquer all this, to offer a real-time human connection, to overlap this gap for trust, and this gap for, or urgent need, I would say, for relationship and human connection and simplicity. Because a lot of tactics that is taught out there are very, very complex, right? Very, very complex. And sometimes you can't hardly grasp to put it together. Webinars are very simple. When you know how to do them, they are very simple, right? So does this make sense for everyone? I just want to know so you are following along in the content. When it comes to how webinars can be put in the gap on the market. Sarah, yes, it makes sense. Yes, yes. Perfect. Laura, great. So far, so good. Great. So then we will continue, okay? So we now talked about the do's and the don'ts, the shifts in the market and things like that. Now we're going to go into the webinar in itself. Okay, and I did a poll in the Facebook group, so I have used that poll to kind of pivot the content a little bit. So we're going to look into 3 things: fill your webinar, the content, and the sale. So if we dive into how to fill the webinar with the right people, so we're not talking about random people, we're talking about the right people. So I want to kind of debunk the thing that when people say you need a lot of people, a big audience, a lot of followers, whatever, massive team to run webinars, advanced tech, any type of huge budget for ads, or a huge audience, or spend hours online to actually run webinars, absolutely not true, okay? There is one core thing that you do absolutely need that you cannot skip, and that is very easy clarity. And that is clarity around who the webinar is for. That is absolute key. Who are your ideal participants? Because if you're targeting the wrong audience, it doesn't matter how good your webinar is. It doesn't matter how good your decision-making content is. It's just not going to convert. It doesn't matter how good your offer is. No one is going to buy it if it's the wrong people, right? So you need to understand your ideal participants over here, right? To make sure that your offer that is over here is a perfect match. Because you have ideal participants, you have the webinar, and you have the offer. And there needs to be an alignment here. If it's not, it doesn't matter. You can have the best webinar, the best offer, it's not going to convert. So that is number 1. You need, with absolute clarity, know who are you going to attract here. Okay, so write that down. You don't need anything else. You need the clarity. And I talked also earlier about the cold to sold journey, that it takes 3 steps: the lead generation, the lead nurture, the lead conversion. I call that a lead funnel. Very simplified: lead generation, lead nurture, lead conversion. Okay, absolute foundation in a business. If you don't have a system that covers these 3 things, you shouldn't start adding anything on it, right? Absolute foundation of any successful business. If we now take these 3 things and kind of break those down in the context of a webinar system, okay? Lead generation is about filling your webinar with the right people. This is when we go out and invite people to register for your webinar. Lead generation, okay? The second part in a webinar, the lead nurture, that is the presentation in itself. So that is when people come and experience you. That is where you build the like, know, and trust with those people and lead them towards making a decision about your offer, okay? The lead conversion, well, that is when you open your cart, right? And the sales sequence that runs after the webinar, because you don't just sell here, like, hey, here's my offer. You continue selling after the webinar, right? So that is how we have now taken the entire funnel and broke it down into a webinar system. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one. And the thing here is that lead generation is part of something we called the runway. And there is a lot of things included in the runway, not only get people to sign up, we also need to engage them and make sure that they also show up, right? But I looked at the poll that we had in the Facebook group, and number one thing that people struggle with, getting the right people to actually register. So we're going to focus on that part, okay? And when it comes to getting the right people to fill your webinar with the right people, you don't need to chase hundreds and hundreds of people, okay? Most webinars, actually 83%, I think 82 or 83% of all webinars runs with less than 50 attendees, okay? You don't need hundreds and hundreds of people. The size of your audience doesn't matter as much as the depth of your message that is resonating with the right people, okay? Because webinars, they thrive on clarity, understanding your dream client, understanding their struggles and the transformation that they are seeking, and operate in that reality, okay? So how do we get people to sign up? Because, I mean, if we look at lead generation strategies, there are hundreds of them, hundreds of strategies. And yet, people kind of struggle getting people to register, right? But the strategies alone are simple, easy to fill in webinars when it comes to the strategic part of it. Easy, simple. We teach 50 strategies inside our webinar revolution. So the strategy is accessible, and still we struggle. And to understand that, we need to just look, I would say, a little bit back before we kind of move forwards, because the power to connect with your target market is in your pocket here, right? Thanks to social media, you have access to, I would say, millions of potential leads at zero cost. It costs you absolutely nothing to go out and connect with your target market. But the reason why most people still struggle filling their webinars or generating leads is that we have the wrong kind of belief system and mindset about what lead generation actually is. Because when I say lead generation, I'm going to bet that most people think about lead generation strategies, right? But lead generation in itself, when you do it together with webinars, is a gift to your market. Because your audience right now have real struggles, real needs, real desires, right? And your job as a service provider is to create a bridge from where they are to where they want to go. That is your job, right? We create this bridge from where your people are over here to where they want to go over here, okay? And when you invite them to participate in your webinar, you are being of service to those people, because you're inviting them to access this bridge from where they are to where they want to go. And that is a gift to your market. And most people don't see lead generation that way, okay? But when it comes to lead generation, this is the thing. You have to invite them, right? People will not just show up. It's that simple. It's like you would have a party. Let's say you host a party, but you don't invite any guests. Well, then you can't sit there and get kind of all bumped up that nobody showed up if you didn't invite any people, because people will not just show up from nowhere. It starts by you inviting them. So when you understand that lead generation is a huge gift to your market, you also need to hand out invitations for your webinar that matches the expectations of what that webinar is going to do for you. Okay? But the problem here is that we kind of resist inviting people, because we fear that we are going to be spammy, sleazy, slimy, or that people even are going to get annoyed, right? That we share about our business all the time. And this is something we work a lot with our clients with. This resistance of actually go out and start inviting people, okay? But if you are not loud and you are not proud about the way that you help people, you're kind of missing the entire point here. Because what we do as service providers are a gift to people. And you have to care so much about solving this problem on the market that you don't stand in your own way and not handing out any invitations, because that is making it all about you and not about them. Okay? And we're going to come back to what we started this training talking about. Your willingness to commit to handing out those invitations are going to dictate your results. And it's not only about strategies, it's about fully understanding and believing in the impact that your webinar are actually creating, and extending invitations with conviction. When you do that, when you understand the value of your webinar and you hand out invitations with conviction without standing in your own way, and you know with clarity who you are going to invite, that is when you start attracting the right kind of people. That is not a secret strategy, okay? That is a mindset shift. And so I hope this makes you feel different when it comes to lead generation. Give me a yes if you see that lead generation is actually not only strategies. And then you're going to say, well, what about the strategies? Well, they are very important, right? As I said, we teach 50 strategies inside our webinar revolution, because some strategies are for you, some you don't want to do. So we have 50 different kind of strategies. So you need to know which strategies am I going to use to get people signed up, get people engaged, and get people to show up. That you need to have kind of decided and put out in your runway. But the strategies are accessible. They are simple. They are easy. But I'm here to tell you that there is no strategy in the world that is going to help you if your mindset and belief system doesn't match the millions of dollars that you want that webinar to do for you. Because then you're going to have the strategies, but you're not going to do nothing with them. End of story. That is what happens, right? So you put a goal in the chat, or you wrote a goal on the paper. Look at that goal now, and then you ask yourself, or you say to yourself, am I willing to commit to not stand in my own way and hand out invitations that match that goal? That is number one. Am I willing to commit to learn and master the lead generation strategies required to hit that goal? And only you can answer that, right? But there should be only 2 yeses. There should be no no's. It's going to be yes or yes, okay? Yes, yes, yes. Handing out invitations that match your goal. And sometimes it's easy said and done. That is when you need accountability. That is when you need someone that is there for you and help you push through, because sometimes it's easy to say, but when it comes to do it, we still have this kind of resistance, okay? But I also mentioned in the beginning, when we talk about lead generation, that it's the lifeblood of your business. And that if we don't have leads coming in, what's going to happen is that we're going to run out of people to sell to, and we are going to stop grow. So in order to keep growing, when we do this kind of launch cycling or webinar cycling, we also need to ensure to continuously having a flow of new people discovering us, more visibility. So every time we run a webinar, every time we run a cycle and start inviting people, there are new people to invite. Because this is not about you filling a webinar once. This is about building momentum so that each cycle attracts new engaged people. That means to make sure that you are consistently expanding your reach and become visible for new people. Because most entrepreneurs struggle here because they believe that they have a sales problem. when in reality they have a visibility problem. And if we look to this into webinars, what usually happens is that we have a kind of initial success. So we run a webinar, we tap into our existing audience, we run a couple of webinars, great result. That is what happens. Then stagnation. So nothing happens. And because without a strategy for continuously create more visibility, your pool of people to invite is going to dry up. And then we make the wrong conclusions and we say webinars doesn't work, when in reality the issue is and lies in the visibility and lead generation efforts, right? But when I talk visibility, this is not about posting 24/7 or posting in every Facebook group that you can possibly get your hands on, or spending hours and hours on social media. When I talk visibility, it's about positioning yourself, deciding that you're going to claim your space on the market, whatever that might be. And then you spend time on what actually moves the needle for connecting and engaging with new people. And there is, of course, a massive amount of way of doing this, create more visibility to grow this pool of people to be able to invite more people in. You can either grow your own audience, but also tap into other people's audience. And what we do with our clients is something that we call the visibility boost. And this was a strategic way of increasing visibility that I created back in 2020. We all know what happened 2020. The market just boom. There were so many people and it was very, very hard to create visibility because there was so much noise. So I created this kind of a strategic way to boost visibility without spending hours on social media. And one of our clients, I'm going to share this with you. She had very minimal online presence, and she was going to do her first masterclass. And she used our visibility boost to boost up her visibility before doing lead generation. And boom, day one, when she started inviting people to her masterclass, 77 signups, which is a huge result, day one. And day two, she actually had 197. Okay, you have Josephine here today that have used this strategy, and she got 350 organic leads, but just implement this visibility boost. And everyone that are here today, you are going to get invited to access this entire framework, okay? Because it's not about spending hours. To create visibility, it's not about spending hours and hours online. It's about spending time on what actually moves the needle for connecting and engaging with new people, okay? So if we look at now lead generation part, we have talked about change, we have shifted, I would say, because I hope you have shifted your mindset and belief system around lead generation, what that actually is. And we have decided, we have committed together to not stand in our own way to hand out those invitations, okay? And we also talked about the importance of growing your visibility to never run out of people to actually invite. So we can keep on growing for every cycle that we do, okay? And that moves us into the next step, okay? And this is the lead nurturing part. And this is where we build the like, know, and trust with our audience. And your goal with this is to shorten the sales cycle. And people invest in people they trust, right? They don't just invest in the solution. They invest in you. They invest in your brand. And this is where your entire presentation comes in, okay? But your webinar presentation is the heart of your lead funnel. It nurtures the audience, it builds trust with the audience, and it turns them into paying clients. While generating leads on top of the funnel is essential, it's the middle part of the funnel, your webinar content, that is going to guide them towards a decision. And without having a clear and structured strategy here, not even the best leads are going to convert, okay? And a well-crafted webinar goes way beyond teaching. It delivers clarity, it delivers direction, and it delivers momentum. It helps your audience to see the transformation they can achieve by working with you. So your offer is going to be the natural next step, okay? Because today, the accessibility of information is huge. How-to content, easy to find. But most people still don't get result. And why is that? Because knowledge and information alone doesn't create transformation. Clarity and decision making do. And your webinar must move your audience towards making a decision. And that is what decision making content do. It shifts their perspective. It helps them understand what they did in the past didn't work, what they need to do instead. It helps them believe that your solution is the solution to take them from where they are to where they want to go. And it's going to make them believe and understand that you are the person that is going to lead them from where they are to where they want to go. And it creates a breakthrough for your audience, so it inspires them to take action. It's going to create this aha moment, and by showing them the gap between where they are to where they want to go, and that your solution is going to bridge that gap, right? And this type of content isn't about piling how-to content. It's about creating an awareness shift, providing the tools, the confidence, and the vision, kind of, I would say, paint the picture to take the next step. And decision-making content is very effective because it's content that lead people, right? It's content that positions you as someone who understands their struggles and can guide them towards the outcome that they want. And decision-making content also taps into the triggers, the buying triggers of an audience. We talked about number one, social proof, because you're going to share real examples, real stories that your method works, right? Two, scarcity, because it makes them understand that in order to change, they need to do something now, not later, not in 2 years, right? That is the scarcity part. Then we have the reciprocity, because you're going to offer real value. You're going to create this energy. They're not going to want to leave. They want to come back to that energy because they need you as the leader. That is number three. Number four, authority, because it's going to establish you as the go-to expert in whatever topic you run your webinar around. And number five, which I would say is the most important, emotional connection, because you are going to operate where they are. Speak to their hopes, speak to their dreams, desires, fears, frustrations, struggles, problem, okay? And when you show up live with this kind of content, you're going to tap into this powerful thing, connection, human connection. It's more powerful than ever. And that is why live webinars are very kind of unmatched on the webinar market, because it's not only about the content, is it? It's about you. We talked about leaving an energy they want to come back to. That is why your energy matters. When you show up, tapping in to your audience and be fully present with them, that is what creates this kind of emotional connection between you and the audience, right? So by the end of the webinar, they know that your offer is what they need. They know that they need to make a decision. They already knew that they needed to make a decision, right? But your offer is the next step. So because selling isn't teaching, it's leading, right? And the most powerful webinar content is content that moves people into believing in themselves and believing in your solution, right? And this is where a lot of people feel like, okay, I'm afraid that I'm going to give away too much. People are not going to buy, okay? But here is the thing, that value doesn't come from simply give away a bunch of how-to content, right? Value comes from clarity and leadership. And the more value you provide, the more your audience is going to trust you. Because if someone would go way and beyond to help you understand something and lead you towards something, you're kind of more inclined to actually work with them, right? And I can't think of anyone that would say, well, I didn't learn anything. I don't know how this can work for me. I don't see this. I can't, this is not at all, nothing. I learned absolutely nothing, but yes, take my money. No one would ever say that, right? But I know this is a very fine line to walk on, to give away enough for people to actually be able to make a decision, and give away too much so people get overwhelmed, because that can happen. But that is also why it's important to run the reps of things, to actually do the repetition. Every athlete out there became the best by running the reps. And you need to treat your business like an athlete. You need to be willing to run the reps of things. Be kind of building a signature webinar that you can run repeatedly, not only going to save your time, but it's going to accelerate your own growth, right? And becoming a good speaker and becoming a good leader requires you to actually run the reps. Okay, so that is the middle part of the funnel. That is where your presentation lays. That is how you move people into making a decision. That moves us into the third part of the funnel. And this is where most people have the most resistance to, and that is sales, right? Mastering sales begins with a shift. And now it's very important that you write this down, okay? Number one, speaking is selling, okay? Because you are actually selling from the moment you start speaking. Because your audience journey doesn't start when you open cart, right? It starts when you start speaking in the beginning of your webinar. Your words, your story, your energy, your content, the way you show up as the leader, as the expert, leading them towards a decision, that is the sale. Okay, it doesn't happen when you open cart for your audience. It starts when you start speaking. Okay, that is the number one shift that you need to do. The second shift that you need to do is redefining what sales is, right? Because if you see sales as slimy, pushy, sleazy, aggressive, I don't know, all these kind of words, that is exactly the energy you are going to project out on your audience. Okay, and it's not so much what you do here as it is who you are when you do this. So if you show up with that energy, what's going to happen is an energy shift. So you're going to go from amazing, teaching, energetic, and all these kind of things into an awkward shift. And you are going to lean back because you feel pushy, slimy, sleazy, whatever, and you're going to lean back. What happens with the audience? They are going to lean back, right? That is what happens. And you're going to go like this. You are going to go here, the audience is going to go there. So you need to start redefining what sales is. And I have 4 things that I want you to add to what sales actually is. And the first thing is selling is serving, right? Selling is when you serve your audience on the highest level, because the true transformation happens inside your paid program, right? Number 1. Number 2, selling is solutions, because you are bringing people to a place and a space of solutions, having their problems, struggles, frustration, whatever that might look like, removed, okay? The third thing is that selling is beautiful, because it's the absolute biggest compliment you can ever get. When someone invests in themselves and they say to you, I invest in myself and I want you to lead me. What is a bigger compliment than that? Nothing, right? The fourth thing is that selling is energy, because confidence stems from understanding the value that you bring. And when you fully believe in the transformation your offer provides, your energy will inspire people to take action. So the transitioning into your offer is not only about words, it's about the energy that you bring. Because you must believe in your offer more than anyone ever will. Because when your energy drops, so does the audience confidence, right? So what you want to master is holding that energy, hold that steady, maintain excitement, and lead into your offer with conviction. And one of the easiest ways to start doing this is to stop seeing this as a pitch. Okay? because it's not a pitch, it's an invitation. You can just hear the energy between those words. Pitch, invitation, totally different energy. So when you wrap up your entire presentation, you want to use inviting language, not pitching language. Inviting language, like, I hope you have learned what I have taught today. For those of you who are ready to go out and XYZ, I have an invitation for you. That is inviting language. So when you show up and you kind of come from a place of serving, guiding your audience into your offer is going to feel very aligned. And when you understand yourself from the moment you start, and the sales is the best way to serve your audience, you're going to practice this sales energy, right? And then, of course, you want to show or share about your offer with the same energy, what's included, bonuses, etc., etc. That is the more strategic part of selling. Of course, you want to maintain energy throughout that. And I want you to remember that selling confidently and maintaining this momentum through your webinar, it doesn't happen the first time usually, and that is totally fine, okay? That is why, again, it's so important to run the reps, because the more you run your webinar, the more kind of natural and confident you are going to be. And your energy is going to be stronger, and your transitionings between the content into the sale is going to be way smoother, and your ability to sell and improve is going to increase, right? So instead of kind of questioning your ability to sell after one attempt, because that is usually what happens, we try once and then we say this didn't work. I want you to focus on perfecting one presentation. That is one system. And then you run the reps of it, okay? With each rep you run, you're confidently to present your offer, hold energy, close more clients, will not only improve, it's going to turn your webinar into a powerful, repeatable, yet simple system to generate leads, nurture leads, and convert leads. At the same time, it's going to build your entire personal brand. So I hope that makes you feel a little bit different around sales. And you feel that, yeah, I can actually do that. Okay, I can do that. But it's okay to feel a little bit, whew, this is going to put me outside of the comfort zone, because I'm going to say to you, there is no growth in the comfort zone. You cannot scale in the comfort zone. It's impossible. You need to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Okay? And I want you to look right in front of you, right to the people that you are put here on earth to help. And I want you to say to them, this is outside of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it for you, because those are the people that matters, right? And as you see, running successful webinars, it's kind of involving just delivering content, because we get so focused on strategies, and a lot of people teach kind of a very strategic way of running webinars. And yeah, there is an entire strategy, but it's more than that, right? It's about combining different elements, from high energy to confident delivering a very designed, a very well-structured webinar framework. And then it's about crafting sales sequence, decision-making content, and implement the entire cycles, right? And this is something I have broken down into what I call the 7 steps, the Webinar Revolution Success Path. And I'm going to share all the 7 steps with you. Okay, I'm going to share all the 7 steps with you. Number 1, and this I talked about so much that it almost feel like you have heard enough, but it's so important: clarity. Okay, number 1 is clarity. For everyone that is here, that is going to join us in the Webinar Revolution, that is the first thing that you are going to meet. Okay, clarity, because it's the ultimate, it's so important. You need to know who you are for, what you do, how you help people, right? So the webinar and the offer is a match to your audience. Audience, webinar, offer, match, right? And we all know that money loves speed, and speed comes from clarity. So the quicker you can become clear, the quicker you earn more money. Okay, so clarity number one, write that down. It's the first thing that you need. Second thing that you need is the presentation framework. And when I say framework, I call this the outline of the webinar. Having the right topic, crafting a very compelling title, or title that really attracts people, bullets, like I'm going to teach 1, 2, 3. What day am I going to run it? What time am I going to run it? I'm going to have a landing page that get people to actually sign up, right? All those kind of things. And then that the entire webinar is positioned in a gap that you have in the market. Because when we close a gap, what happens? We make money. And that is the ultimate goal here, right? To make money and change people's lives, because those two goes hand in hand. So that was the second presentation framework. The third thing is visibility and lead generation. You need people to register. That is it. And this is where we come in as your accountability partner, because this can be for a lot of people a hard thing to do, not the strategies, but kind of the energy and actually execute on it. So we boost visibility and we do an entire lead generation for X amount of days or week, depending. So lead generation is step number 3. Step number 4 is the presentation in itself, the decision-making content, to make sure that we have, that the content in itself drives the sales and push people towards making a decision, and that the content kind of address all this mindset block, limiting beliefs, objections, and also your stories. We haven't talked a lot about stories. I talked that you're going to use stories, right? But it's important to have your own story and understand how you can use your stories to drive people to making a decision. So everything inside the presentation, that is the 4th step in the success path, decision-making content, okay? The 5th step is open cart and sales sequence. So now we open cart in our webinar, we invite people to our offer, we need an offer stack, and then we need a sales process that runs after the webinar. That is the next step to create that, okay? The 6th step is to recreate and improve the entire cycle. So when you have run your webinar, you are going to identify segments to improve, and you're going to run it again. You're going to set it up to run once more. This is the cycle. Lead generation, presentation, sales. Lead generation, presentation, sales. Lead generation, nurturing, sales. You can see it's the same, right? But we can't stop there, because what happened if we don't have new people? We're going to stop, grow. So we need audience expansion. So that is the 7th step, is audience growth. That is the 7 steps that we work inside the Webinar Revolution, that you all are going to get invited to access, okay? And these 7 steps that you go through, together with understanding the market and operate in that with the right mindset and energy, together with running the reps, that is the secret behind a high converting webinar that actually drives result over and over again, and not once and twice and then nothing happens, okay? But what I have noticed when I talked about this, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs running webinars, it sounds very overwhelming. It sounds like a lot, right? Not knowing kind of where to do and when to do it. Or some people create the entire thing for 6 months, and then they go out and execute and no sales, right? Or you nail the energy, so you have good energy, but you don't follow up. Or you have very great content, but nobody showed up to actually hear the content. There is a lot of things inside these steps that can feel very overwhelming, okay? And that is when people get stuck. And so it's not about that we don't have value to share, it's that we're missing the critical pieces that turns a webinar from something that just runs into something that actually converts. And when you have all the pieces in place, creating and running a webinar, a successful webinar, isn't a guessing game, okay? So when we teach you how to run successful webinars, we don't just show you how to run the webinar. in itself, the strategic part. We equip you with the entire strategy, all the critical system, every essential piece that you can possibly think about that ensures the webinar is going to work. Okay? And that is not just strategy. I mean, we have helped, for example, we have helped Claire. She landed 15 high tickets clients from her very first masterclass with a brand new offer, I'm going to say. And then we have Josephine, who turned her struggling workshop into a 92 sales success story. We have Namita, who fine-tuned her process because she already run masterclasses into a 7,000 sales in her first one. And we have Lisa, she ran her first webinar with a low ticket offer and made $5,000 in sales. Those are not isolated success stories because they are the direct result of a proven system that works together with the right support and the right guidance and the accountability. Okay? So running a successful webinar is a strategic process, but it's also going to build the trust with your audience and tapping into the 5 buying triggers that makes people create a decision. And it creates a brand that resonates with your ideal clients without feeling overwhelmed, without feeling that there should be kind of a guessing work. And to be able to do that, you need more than strategy. You need to know with clarity what to do and when. And the way we have built the 7 steps is that you learn, you build, and you can execute. Learn, build, and execute. So you don't need to build for month, and then execute, right? You can actually build and execute at the same time. That is how it's built step by step. So you know with clarity when to do what, okay? The second thing is the support and accountability. We talked a lot about having someone there to not only guide you, but also kind of push you a little bit outside of the comfort zone, right? To make sure that you actually invite people, to make sure that you pull through. That is the support and accountability, and that is not strategy, right? And that is exactly what we provide in the Webinar Revolution. And that is not just a program because it's an ultimate blueprint to actually get your webinar up and running fast, okay? Because it's built completely step by step. Learn, create, execute. Learn, create, execute. You don't need to spend 6 months creating and then execute, okay? Then we don't get any clients until 6 months. It's not sustainable, right? So with this webinar success path, you are following a very clear, strategically built step-by-step system that is going to take you from 0 to launching a high converting webinar without all the overwhelm, without not knowing what to do and when, no confusion, just, and I would say no guessing work, because a lot of things we do is a lot of guessing, no wasted time, just clarity and action, okay? And we can just look at Sarah. We're going to share the link later, but I wanted to share Sarah's story. She joined in February. Last time we had people coming in the Webinar Revolution was in February. And Sarah joined, and she joined, I would say, 2nd or 3rd week of February, we opened the doors. And she ran her masterclass last week, okay? And she closed 5 clients within 6 weeks. Why? Because she learned, created, executed. Learn, created, executed, right? That is how you can get a result very fast, okay? And what would that do for your business or life, for that matters? If you would have a webinar up and running within a month, 6 weeks, or 8 weeks if you want to. This is not just about learning. It's about proven real result, okay? So I'm going to just quickly share, and then we're going to go into all the questions so you don't leave without not knowing what you actually get inside. Because I talked about strategy. We have the 7 steps. I talked about those 7 steps. You get the Crystal Clarity course. It's a separate entire course to make sure that you are totally clear with your profitable niche, your dream client, your money-making title and statement, and that your offer aligns with that. Okay, you get templates for everything, because I don't want you to spend any time creating these things. I want you to go out there and engaging with your audience. So you have templates for tracking, lead tracking, result tracking, emails, lead generation, landing pages. You even have an entire landing page you can just copy in our system. So you save time and eliminate any type of guesswork, and you can spend time on what actually moves the needle here. Go out and engage with people, okay? You also get lifetime access to all the resources and the support. And as you see, I teach the same things that I do, which means that I change and I update very, very often. And I want you to access that. Either you want to build a second webinar, or you want to come back and kind of refine your strategy. So lifetime access to all of it, okay? But I also talked about the other thing, the support, because I believe that is when the real transformation is going to happen, right? When we have access to more than strategies. Everyone that joins get a one-to-one call with me that we have before you run your webinar. And this call is about you. So whatever you need help with is what we cover. It can be energy, it can be lead generation, it can be the content in the webinar, whatever, it doesn't matter. But we do it before you run the webinar to make sure you are equipped for success, okay? To try to eliminate as much as we can possibly do before you do it live, okay? We run bi-monthly live workshops, and the last one was the tech part of creating landing pages and the automation behind that. Because there's a lot of things that I want to teach clients. There is a lot of things that I learned from my coaches, or the clients wants to learn something. So we have bi-monthly live clients-only workshops. We run 2 weekly Q&A and coaching sessions, 2 different times. So it doesn't matter what time zone you are in, you can join one of the sessions. We have a support community, and I have 2 amazing bonuses. First one, we have the client spotlight. The client spotlight actually runs the next one within 2 weeks. So if you join today and you dig into it and create your landing page, you can be in that client spotlight, okay? That runs, the next one runs in 2 weeks. That is a presentation of your webinar to my audience. And I have an audience reach on social media, my email list, my own audience, other people's audiences that I can share this, of 300,000 people. So I present the client's webinar in the client spotlight for my audience. And I'm going to do that the 23rd, I think, 24th or 23rd, okay? That is the next one. So if you jump in, you can be in that one, okay? The second bonus I have, which I have never given away before, so this is new for you. And this is a program that stands alone, and that is a $2,500 program, and that is my multi-day mastery. That is going to help you then take your webinar, because you have lifetime access, to the next level, to be able to create multiple day events, either free events or paid events, or create a multiple day event that you can have as a lead magnet, a mini course, okay? So that bonus is a fast action bonus. I am only going to give that to people that join before tomorrow. I don't know what the time is. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., okay, Eastern Daytime, so 7 p.m. Central European Time. So 24-hour-ish from now, okay? Then you get your hands on, and it's an entire standalone program, the multi-day mastery. And Josephine is going to share the link, and the investment to join the webinar revolution with lifetime access is only $995 on a one-time investment. And you can also split the investment on 3 investments of $395 for 3 months. Okay, so either the one-time investment, you're going to save 15%, or the split investment of $395 times 3. You get all the bonuses. It doesn't matter, okay? Join, go click on the link, go and join, and then you come back, okay? And you say, I am in, so I can celebrate you. And the link is, do we have the link in the comment section? Yes, we have the link in the comment section. So you can click join. I'm going to stay because I'm going to answer questions. So you have time, go out and come in and say, I am in, okay? It might be that you feel I am not really ready. And I'm just going to say you are, okay? You are ready. You are ready to go out and change people's lives, because that is what this is all about. Okay, that is what we do. We change people's lives. And when we do, the domino effect of that turns the world into a better place. I'm just going to say, right? We have Samantha who thought she wasn't ready and she made $5,000. And then she did an upsell to her first high ticket offer. Fan that was stuck in a 5K month with her long event. And she finally saw result after just doing some pivots with her events. Josephine launched her first, one of her first offers a year ago, 15 clients, first webinar. And we have Christine. I talked about Christine. You can take that presentation. You can bring it to a live stage, right? I mean, these are not just success stories. They are the result from people just like you that said, even if they felt I'm not ready, they said, I'm ready, I'm going to do this, right? With the right strategy and support, you can do this. So quickly, you get lifetime access, the 7 steps, step by step, crystal clarity, templates for anything. And if there's any templates that you feel, oh, I would like this, we create it. Okay. I have done this. I have done it all. I'm just going to share. There is no event that I haven't done. There is no template that I can't create if you're missing anything. Lifetime access. You also get a one-to-one with me. You get bi-monthly live workshops. We have the weekly Q&A. We run 2 every week. So it doesn't matter what time zone you can join. You get client spotlight. 2 weeks, we run the next one. And then you get, if you join now, within tomorrow, 7 p.m., you get the multi-day mastery. Okay? No more guessing game. No more inconsistent income. Okay? No more just a proven strategy that actually works. We have run the reps of this. So 995 one-time investment, or split it 395 on 3 monthlies, split investment. You get all the bonuses. So make sure you add any type of questions in the comments. Maybe Josephine, you have collected some questions. I'm just going to make sure I see. I'm going to close this one so I actually see here. Do we have any questions? Have you collected them, Josephine? If you have any questions from now, add them in the chat. Okay.
Of course, I have collected the questions. That's what I'm here to do today. So we start with the first one, which actually started in the beginning, and you did respond to it. But I think maybe we should quickly cover that anyways. Do you mean we should run a live event and not a pre-recorded webinar? So maybe quickly cover that one.
Yes. So first, I'm just going to answer Monica's live.
Yeah, great question. I didn't see that one, but yeah, absolutely. Take that one first.
Everything that I mention is lifetime access as long as I run this. And as you know, I have been doing the same things now for 5.5 years. I don't plan to stop. Okay. I thrive for this. So everything that I said, you have lifetime access to. Okay. All the calls, all the trainings, everything that I have shared. So yeah, the reason why I recommend, number 1, to run live, the energetic sell, that is the thing. A recorded webinar can never ever create what a live webinar can do. But when the live webinar converts, when you have run it live and it actually starts to convert really well, that is the time you're going to put it up as an evergreen. And that is something I have a couple of evergreens webinar, and that is something we have in the webinar revolution as well. Yes.
Okay, good. So then we have a question about, should we offer transformation during the masterclass itself?
Yeah, so the entire masterclass in itself is going to create a transformation for your audience. That is this kind of aha moment, like what I did in the past. They should sit on the other side and say, this is why I didn't get the result. This is what I need to do. That alone is a transformation. Also, when it comes to people that join, when they come into your webinar, they have limiting beliefs, mindset blocks, objections, they are scared, they have fears, frustrations. And when you start losing that up and paint the picture of what is actually possible, that is when the transformation happens. That hasn't to do with any how-to content. You're not teaching how to set up a funnel. right? You are sharing and painting the picture what that funnel can actually do for them. That is the transformation. So we're not talking about how to content. We are talking about an emotional transformation that makes people say, this is what I need. You are the person, and this is what I have been missing in my entire career, or whatever you are selling, right? This is what I need. That is the transformation. It has more to do with an awareness shift, and a mindset to do with how to content. I hope that answers your question.
I think it does. Hang on a second. I need to go back to the questions here. One question is about, is it better to use a PowerPoint presentation in a webinar?
You can absolutely use slides. As you see, I don't use slides. There is a couple of reasons. First, I am not a good creator at slides, okay? Then I get so distracted and I'm gonna click and share. And I love this. I love to see you. I love to see. We have Armand, I have seen you before. We have Alan, Ola, we have Sylvia, is a client. Hi, Sylvia. We have Elizabeth, also a client, right? I love to see you. I thrive on this, right? But can you use slides? Yes. If I would taught something that is more technical based, that is more like click here, do this, I would definitely use slides. You can use Canva, PowerPoint, it doesn't matter. Sometimes in the beginning, it can feel good to have slides because we can hide a little bit behind them. But also it can be another things to sort out, a technical part that can kind of be a little bit of a hurdle. You decide, both works. One isn't more converting than the other. So it's more like, what do you want to do? Do you want to use slides? Use slides. Don't want to use slides? Don't use slides. Your audience are not going to care if you use slides or not slides, right? It has more to do with how do you like to present. And sometimes I use slides in the client-only workshops. I usually use slides because it's more it's all how to do things. Then you want maybe to use a lot of slides, right? But you decide, but don't complicate them. Make the slides simple, easy to read, and not a lot of fluff. Nobody needs fluff on the slides, okay? Make them simple.
So I think we have one more question, and it's very actual considering the current, what's happening in the world currently. So how do you handle fear and hesitation around buying during uncertain economic times?
Yeah. So, I mean, we can see all the 5 buying triggers is, of course, important, but we can see because when we look back, if we look back during the pandemic, people bought like crazy because they weren't experienced buyers. They just saw something and the shiny syndrome was huge, right? We just bought stuff. Now they are way more educated. That is why the buying cycle has become longer, but people still buy. People don't buy less. They just buy from the people they trust. Reserved, and it takes longer. We can see people joining multiple events sometimes before they are ready to do that investment. Has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with what you teach, the way you show up, nothing. It has only to do with the disposable income people have, how much money they actually can spend, but also that they are way more educated. They also have a lot of experience from buying stuff that didn't give them any return of investment. It might be that they bought something that was supposed to be some kind of support. They didn't feel they got the support. They bought something they thought was supposed to be like this. It wasn't. They're way more educated. And it's your job to navigate. But you don't need any special stuff because I can say webinars and live selling, like live this, is going to override that. Because the more you go into the complexity, the more you go into the in-person stuff, the harder that trust is going to be built, because that is where the whole world has turned, right? That is why people don't know if they can trust what they see online, right? That is the whole market has going. If you sig when those people are sagging, I can promise you, you're going to meet your audience. They are going to buy, right? But we all struggle with longer buying cycle. That is why you want to show up live, and I recommend to do the live, tap into your audience, engage with them. And we live in a kind of connection, relationship-based market then we do a marketing market or a sales market. The engagement and the connection with people, that is where the sales are going to come from, right? So that is why webinars or masterclasses are an amazing way to navigate through that. But everyone will see longer buying cycles. That is just how the market is, right?
We are getting some information here. We're getting some more questions here. How long do you recommend the webinar to be?
I mean, that can be anything from, you can see webinars that is 30 minutes to 1.5 hours, 2 hours, even 3 hour webinars. I would say it depends a little bit about 3 things. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to run a shorter webinar or longer webinar? I love 1.5 hour-ish because I want to give enough. So I don't want to cut short, but I don't want to go on for 2-3 hours, even if I could. I could easily go on, right? I thrive for this, so I could go on forever. So I like that format, but I have clients that do 35-minute webinars, right? So first of all, what do you want to do? Second, what do you think your audience would prefer? Do you think they would prefer a shorter webinar? If you work with stuff like energetic, a lot of emotional stuff, I would say shorter webinars are way better because it's exhausting. If you work a lot with mindset, same thing, right? If you work more with strategic, let's say funnel building, you can easily run 2-3 hours, right? No problem. So the second thing, what do you think your audience want? The third thing, what are you selling? Because the higher the ticket, the more time people will need with you to trust you. Can you do a longer webinar? You can do a longer webinar and less calls, right? So there is kind of the 3 factors. So that is something we usually in the webinar revolution, we talk about in the calls and decide together because we need to look at different things. But anything from 30 minutes to, I would say, 90 minutes or 2 hours, that is usually the span of most webinars.
Then we have another question here from Monica. One more question. Do you recommend pre-qualifying questions to ensure the right people attend?
So I see that a lot of people use that strategy. I'm just going to be honest. I think it's friction. You don't want friction. You want it to as easy as possible to be able to access you, right? And the more you put between, that is why I don't prefer to run webinars that are paid. I like free webinars because it creates something behind a wall. And as soon as you have that between, you create some friction. So I would say it's way better to pre-qualify them in your messaging. That is why the clarity is so important. And pre-qualify them in your messaging, in your content, and that kind of thing. So when you do lead generation, the right people are going to be attracted by you. That is your brand, that is you, but also by the content you put out, right? So that is what I prefer, because I believe all friction is going to make some people, even if they are the right people, to not sign up. Any other questions?
No,
Armand,
I think that was actually
absolutely, Armand. You can just send a DM, okay? And if so, you can just send a DM. So absolutely. Thank for this valuable high value. Thank you so much. So make sure that click on the link. We could share the link again for everyone and join. And I would love to have you inside of the webinar revolution so we can start working on your next webinar and get that up and running. So you can close clients and change the world in a more simple way. No more wasting any type of time. So thank you so much, everyone. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Aura. Teofana, I hope you're saying your name right, Diane. So excited to have you here. I'm going to send out the replay and come and join us in the webinar revolution. We would love to have you. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.